Hi everyone, this is lesson 12, division of integers. I think that you're going to really like this lesson because it is very, very similar to multiplying integers. So let's go ahead and get started. We're just going to jump right in for the rules of dividing integers. How do these rules compare to multiplying integers? So copy down your essential question if you haven't, and then let's go ahead and get started. Exercise 1 says recalling the relationship between multiplication and division. So go ahead and record these equations on the left, 6 times 4, 4 times 6, 24 divided by 4, and 24 divided by 6. Okay, those are all positive numbers. They're all going to have positive answers. These are your basic multiplication facts from the past. And those are simply the answers. So we can think of those as the absolute value answers, just doing 24 divided by 4 and 24 divided by 6, and then multiplying 4 and 6. Over on the right-hand side, though, we're going to talk about what happens when they're integers. So what happens when there are positives and negatives. So a quick review, go ahead and write your answers down and see if you can get the signs right. Unpause it when you're ready to check your answers that go into the integer oval right there on your paper. Okay, did you get 24, negative 24, negative 24, and positive 24? Remember, these two have the same sign. In the first example, they're both positive. In the last example, they're both negative. And then in the middle two, this is one positive, one negative, one positive, one negative. So that's why those answers are negative. Okay, so that's quickly, a recap on the multiplying. But what about division? What about division with negative numbers? How are we going to complete these problems? And guess what? It's the exact same rules as multiplication. You just divide these numbers the way that you know how to, and then you know that if the signs are different, it's going to be a negative answer, and if the signs are the same, it's going to be a positive answer. If you think that you're ready to just go ahead and answer these, go ahead, answer them right now, and then you can kind of, pull the cursor over and see how you did. If you didn't get them right, rewind it a little and listen to this explanation I'm about to give. Okay, we have 24 divided by 4, and those are both positive, so my answer is going to be positive because they have the same sign. Okay, the one right below it, same thing. Positive 24, positive 6, same sign. So I just divide it normally and give it a positive answer. Okay, if you look at the next two examples, there's one negative number and one positive number. Since those are different signs, I'm going to have a negative answer. And then I just do 24 divided by 6 using, the absolute values just to do your basic multiplication and division facts. Same thing from multiplication. This time we're just dividing 24 and 6. So it's 4, and that makes it a negative 4. Okay, right below it, one positive, one negative. That's different signs. That means I have a negative answer. All right, go back up to the top right, and now I want you to try them on your own. So remember, same signs, positive answer, different signs, negative answer. Okay, so go ahead and try those last 4 and then unpause it and see how you did. Okay, different signs, negative answer, different signs, negative answer. Same signs because a negative divided by a negative, and that's a positive answer. Same thing here, positive answer. Okay, hopefully that was not too bad. Let's go ahead right now and try another example. We're going to use some different numbers. So if you remember, 4, 6, and 24, those are fact families. They kind of go together when it comes to multiplying and dividing. We're going to use a different set of numbers on page 73. So for 73, let's write these equations down. 5 times 7, 7 times 5, and then we'll do the division problems using those numbers. 35 divided by 5 and 35 divided by 7. Okay, go ahead and answer those. And now we're going to use the integers. Don't forget, integers are whole numbers and their opposites. So all the positive whole numbers and then their opposites, which would be those negatives, -1, -2, -3, so on and so forth. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to use the same numbers, 35, 5, and 7, but we're going to be using, the positives and negatives. So if I know the answer for -5 times 7, and I also know the answer for -7 times 5, and then the last example would be if they were both negative. So let's do -5 times -7. Okay, go ahead and answer those. And by the way, don't forget, if you see it like this or like this, there's no sign between those two numbers. That also means multiplication. Okay, go ahead and answer those 3 questions there in green. Okay, did you get -35, -35, and +35? Why is the last one positive? Because they have the same sign. That's for multiplying and dividing. So again, you don't want to forget what you learned with addition and subtraction. You have rules for addition and subtraction, and then you've got rules for multiplying and dividing. So try not to get those mixed up. That's going to cause a lot of problems. So don't forget how we solved addition and subtraction. Okay, so now what we can do is if we know that -5 times 7 is -35, well, what if I had -35 divided by 7? Well, I can tell from the problem that that's going to give me a -5. What if I had -35 divided by -5? Well, it has to be the other factor there, which is +7, +7. Okay, next set, it's -7 times +5, and that gave us a -35 as well. So let's write 2 more problems there. We've got -35, we're going to divide that by 5, and we know that that gives us the other factor, -7. Likewise, if I do -35 divided by -7, remember I'm getting these from this problem here, the one that we're working on, all these 3 numbers. Okay, and that is equal to the other factor, +5. Okay, last one. We've got -5 times -7, and that gave us a +35. So this time I'm doing +35 divided by -7, and we're also going to do +35 divided by -5. All right, the answer is in the problem. So 35 divided by -7 is -5, and 35 divided by -5 is -7. Hopefully you are noticing a pattern here with those problems. The first thing I want you to do is write the problems that produced a quotient that is negative. So go to the problems that we have in the oval and take any of the, take any of the ones that gave us a negative answer. So this one gave us a negative answer, this one gave us a negative answer, and both of those gave us a negative answer. Go ahead and write those down right there. Okay, so what do you notice about all those? What do you notice about all those? If the quotient is negative, that means the answer. Remember, quotient is answer to a division problem. And I know you wrote it down because I wouldn't stop and write it down if it wasn't important. Okay, answer to a division problem. Sometimes you haven't heard those words in a while. It's good to get a refresher. So mark your text, circle it, write what it means. Okay, what is true about all of these? What pattern do you notice about all these problems? The dividend, which is the first number, and the divisor have different signs. Okay, so one was negative and one was positive. Okay, now if we write down the 2 problems that gave us a positive answer, that was -35 divided by -5, and negative 35 divided by negative 7. We also know, I'm just going to write these two down real quick. We also know that 35 divided by 5 and 35 divided by 7, we know that those also give us a positive answer. Okay, so those are the examples. These first two were from up above. These two are just our basic ones that we know from the past. Okay, so those all have a positive answer. So what do they have in common? Negative divided by negative, negative divided by negative, positive divided by positive, positive divided by positive. Hopefully you are totally getting the hang of this now. We know that the dividend and the divisor have the same sign. The dividend and the divisor have the same sign. So go ahead and write that down. Okay, so the rule for dividing two integers is pretty much the same as the rules for multiplying two integers. When the dividend and the divisor have the same, let's capitalize that, or underline it in your case, the same sign, both positive or both negative, the answer is positive. Okay, so I want you to kind of draw attention to the same sign, positive. Okay, and then very, very similarly, we're going to write a sentence about what happens when they have different signs. So when the dividend and the divisor have different signs, one is negative, one is positive. I'll move this in a second. The answer is negative. Okay, and there you go. So those are your two pieces of information there. When the dividend and divisor have the same sign, the answer is positive. When they have different signs, the answer is negative. Okay, and then exercise 2. Is the quotient of two integers always an integer? So that means if you take any two integers and divide them, will you always get an integer? Like 8 divided by 2, that gives us 4. Good. And 10 divided by 5, that gives us 2. Good. Can you come up with an example that doesn't result in an integer? That would be two whole numbers divided that don't equal a whole number. Is it possible? Absolutely. All you need to do is come up with two numbers that don't go into each other evenly. Like 3 doesn't go into 8 evenly. I think I've been talking in class randomly, well, not randomly, but sporadically about the cookies, where I would say, okay, if I had 8 cookies divided by 4 people, everyone would get 2 cookies. But what if I had 4 cookies and I wanted to divide them up by 8 people? Well, I can still do it. It's just a decimal. That's only half a cookie per person. Okay, so these ones right here, these are two examples of when two integers do not equal an integer. Okay, and this one's 2 2/3 in case you were wondering, or 2.6 repeating. Okay, so that was just a quick survey for you to see that that doesn't always work. All right, on page 75, you see exercise 3 and the summary. That's going to be a part of your independent practice. You could always get a head start on that, of course. I know that you can do these 3 problems. They're just asking, are the answers all the same or different? So you could answer all 3 and see what happens. But it's going to be a part of independent practice as well as your summary. And then, of course, the actual independent practice page, which is on 76. Okay, that is a wrap on lesson 12. Bye.